Oh, there you go. Happy Sunday night, y'all. Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina with another Sunday night live stream show. It is Sunday night, June 20th at 8:24 p.m. We are just about ready to get started on our live stream show. Just need about 5-6 minutes or so, and we'll be ready to get rolling here on tonight's special episode of the live Q&A fishing show. We've got Captain Brian and Captain Garrett in studio tonight. How are you guys doing?
Good. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. And we're going to be talking a lot about our deep water fishing, our gag grouper fishery, our red snapper fishery, what's going on the 39-hour trips, 12-hour extreme trips, long-range private charters. Talking a lot about that stuff tonight, guys. Got the two experts in the room with us, our full-time 39-hour captains. But don't worry, the 39-hour is offshore right now in very capable hands. Captain Joe Drew is taking out today's 39-hour trip. So we were able to snag Brian and Garrett, and surprisingly, they were willing. I'm very surprised, to be honest, after the start of the season we've had and the length of the season we have in front of us. It's a blessing to have both of them with us in studio tonight to join us for the live stream show. We've got some good photos to show you guys tonight and some cool stuff to talk about and some exciting news as well. So definitely stay tuned for the live show. If you're not watching live, you can skip forward to where you see the video start. We're going to start here in about 5 minutes. If you are watching live, don't forget to share the video on your favorite Facebook group, on your timeline. Don't forget to like the video on Facebook, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, double tap on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure to like Hubbard's Marina on Facebook. If you want a chance to win the over $700 in free fishing trips we give away every Sunday night, in order to be eligible to win, you do have to comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. So what you do is you go to facebook.com, search Hubbard's Marina, find that live stream that'll be popped up all over the page, and then all you have to do is comment one single time. Whatever you want, just one comment. Doesn't matter if you comment once or you comment 100 times, you're still eligible the same way. So make sure you comment one time to be eligible to win, and then stay tuned. You got to watch the entire video, the entire show, because if you're picked as one of those lucky winners, you do have to claim that free trip within about 5 minutes to prove you were watching live. So make sure you stay tuned with us after you comment. You can watch on YouTube, watch on Instagram, watch on Facebook, whatever you want to do, but you have to comment once on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. So I think I covered that enough. But every week someone's like, hey, you didn't tell us how to win. So I feel like those people are the ones who didn't tune in early.
Play attention.
Play attention, exactly. So also, guys, we got our red snapper season is in full swing, so we'll be talking a lot about those red snapper. Thanks, Reese Matthews, for those stars. Appreciate that, man. And Dennis Mills getting us started right with 500 stars. Thank you so much, guys. I think there was a couple others that I missed, but all of you guys that send stars, hopefully you see the thank yous pop up on the page. Gabe Brown, shout out. What's up, man? Appreciate all the stars, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're new to Facebook, or if you're new to the show on Instagram, those stars are just a way for people to show their support, and those are what help us to fund the cool stuff that we do with our studio and all these live shows. So I really appreciate those stars. And of course, all our supporters. Shout out to the Hubbard's Marina supporters group. The group obviously helps us a lot as well. Dennis Mills, thanks, buddy. The supporters group, we have your supporter shirts on order. We've got some custom supporter shirts coming in the mail soon from Salinity. It's a really, really cool shirt that anybody in our Hubbard's Marina supporters group is going to get absolutely free for being a supporter. So don't forget to check that out if you want to become a supporter today. you'll be able to take advantage of those shirts, as long as you're committing to at least trying it for a little bit. It's pretty cool. Supporters After Show on Sunday nights, and then we're going to have a new Supporters After Show after our morning radio shows, which we're going to talk about here shortly as well. So lots of cool content in the supporters group as well. Plus, you see things first. This week we released a couple videos there that didn't go anywhere else. And with that, I think we're ready to start. You guys ready? Ready as we'll ever be?
You're going to see us sitting here in the middle of snapper season and think we broke the boat.
All right, with that, hopefully that doesn't happen. Thanks for joining us, guys. Appreciate y'all tuning in and hanging out with us. We are getting ready to get rolling here with our Sunday night show, and if you've seen it before, you know we kind of start out by showing you what we've been catching, talking a little bit about what we're seeing on the water now. Then we get into a few announcements, and then we get rolling on answering your questions live. So let's get it started off here and show you what we've been seeing inshore. This week, we don't have a ton of inshore photos. We were a little shy on the amount people sent over to us, whether that is a result of everything that's going on or just a lot of people didn't remember to send their photos this week. We shall find out. Michelle Cairns? Cairns. I'm going to go with that. Appreciate the stars, Michelle. Mangrove snapper, as seen here, this was around the Fort DeSoto area. A lot of those mangrove snapper have been around the docks, the piers, bridges. Virtually any structure this time of year inshore is holding those mangrove snapper. One guy came down for the 39-hour trip early this morning, was trying to catch bait off the dock, and all he could catch was mangrove snapper after mangrove snapper. It was pretty funny. Definitely a good problem to have if you're not targeting bait for one of those 39-hour trips. And then the redfish bite. The redfish have been pretty consistent. We're seeing a lot of those redfish around those docks and bridges at night where that water's flowing, the bait's stacked up, and around the grass flats, those potholes, those oyster bars. We're seeing a lot of those redfish, especially with cut bait. The water's warming up. That cut bait's working better and better. Dan Netto, thanks, buddy, for those 1,000 stars. You're the man. Sheep's head are still around, but very spread out and a little less prolific than they were when the water was chillier. You guys been seeing sheep's head around the dock at all, or has it mostly been, I think I've only seen mostly mangroves.
And redfish, but I
Snook,
think we're toward the end of the redfish. The snook at our place are homesteaders.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Mark, what's up, Mark?
And you caught a bunch of redfish the other day.
I did.
After a 39-hour
Broke
trip.
a bunch off, too.
Oh, yeah. On that 4-aught. It's probably older line.
Yeah.
What were you
redfish.
using?
I was using a 4-aught pin and an ugly stick and shrimp, and just dropping it right underneath our fillet table. And if it wasn't a mangrove snapper, it was a snook or a redfish or a spadefish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The spadefish are coming back. I remember when I was younger, I used to catch those under the dock all the time for bait for the 39-hour trips. And that was like almost all you saw down there. And you could catch them just one after another.
I remember that, too.
But it hasn't really been like that around the dock in a long time.
They seem to be coming back.
Cool.
I don't know what's bringing them, but they're there.
Yeah, those things can fight, man.
Maybe all the carcasses were thrown in.
Yeah, they go sideways, and you're pulling that sideways fish through the water.
The big old piece of plywood through the water. A lot of snook on the beaches. You find those clearer water areas. You're still finding the snook pretty heavily on the beaches. Obviously, Back Bay, around those higher tides, those snook are hugging the mangroves. As the tide goes out, they kind of travel away from those mangrove edges and hide out in those holes or around the structure adjacent to the flats. And then this one was a cool story. This young angler, I believe his name was Austin. I'm going to have to double check. That's Captain Chris Wiggins there on the left, who is a inshore charter captain in our area. And that is a client that has been fishing with Captain Chris for quite a while. His name is Anderson. Anderson is his name. And Anderson started fishing with Chris when he was like 7, 8 years old, and I believe this was his 10th birthday. And
That fish.
yeah, 10th birthday, and all he wanted to do was catch a tarpon. So Chris takes him into the backwaters, and they're targeting those juvenile tarpon with like 30-pound fluorocarbon and like a super small circle hook and some cut bait. And he hooks like a 35, 40-pound tarpon and broke him off on a dock. Then he hooks a bigger tarpon, like 50, 60-pound tarpon. It jumped one time and spit the hook. Then he hooks this, what Chris estimated to be closer to like an 80-pounder. And he fought this fish for 45 minutes.
Wow.
Got him, huh?
Drugged the boat all over the canal, wrapped him up one time around the piling, and this kid hung in there and ended up landing that fish after 45 minutes. Beautiful, beautiful catch. And talk about being hooked for life.
Yeah, you know it.
10 years old, fishing on a charter for your birthday, hooking a fish and landing it like that. Anderson is going to be addicted to fishing for many years to come. So
I have yet to catch one of those.
I've yet to land one of those. I've seen you hook one.
Hooked them.
Yeah. We hook them at the dock all the time.
Knowing I was going to lose it.
Yeah. You get to see it jump once if you're lucky, and then it just breaks you off. It's funny, though, because you see those younger kids land them all the time. The one
Really?
kid, yeah. The one kid, Hayden, got lucky. He caught probably a 40, 50-pounder.
Okay.
It was a bigger one, but it wasn't like the monsters that we sometimes see in the summertime. And he hooked it like kind of down by the restaurant on the catwalk, and it ran perfectly straight out of the bow of the friendly slip and ran right out towards the middle of the pass, and he was able to get it back, and it just barely cleared that piling, and then it darted up underneath the dock. And at the time, it was so shallow underneath the dock, this guy running up underneath the dock, he can't control it. He jumped the railing to the dock and went into the water and swam under the dock. Swam under the dock, got up on the beach, and ended up landing that fish. Yeah. So I was like, dedication, man. And I had it all on security camera.
Of course,
it was beautiful.
You did. Nice.
It was really fun to watch it back.
I want to say thank you to everyone wishing us a happy Father's Day, and a happy Father's Day to everyone out there as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it. And you've got 3 kids now. Yeah.
Animals
too. They count. Yeah, I've got one, and I'm almost about to have a second coming up soon. And Brian, I feel like you have a lot of kids in the form of your crew. I mean, Will's your son you never wanted, right?
Don't pick on Will. He's offshore again.
Yes, sir. All right, let's see what other photos we have here. Josh, can you? Oh, I can click it now. Oh, yeah. So trout as well. We've been seeing a few trout in the early morning, moving out of the passes onto the beaches. At night, around those dock lights, bridge lights, we're still seeing some of those trout stack up around the structures where the bait present. During the day, those trout are moving onto deeper flats. The deeper flats are where you're finding the trout, like 4 or 6 foot of water, where there's really healthy grass. That's where we're finding a lot of trout lately. And with that, Josh, let's move near shore and offshore and show everybody what we've been catching on our fishing boats offshore, near shore and offshore. I was supposed to have them all organized, but I don't believe I have them all organized today, going kind of closer to shore to offshore.
Show the picture and we'll guess.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. They're mostly offshore because of the 39 hours. We got so many 39-hour trips going on right now. And the gag grouper bite has just been absolutely incredible, man. Just tearing those fish up. I think, personally, this is, in my opinion, probably one of the better summertime gag grouper catches.
I think it's a strong fishery.
Yeah.
I really do.
I do, too.
And what's interesting is, like, back in January, February, the FWC completed this big research project they were doing, and they found that less than 2% of the gag grouper in the area they researched, which is basically the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, less than 2% of the gags are male. So they were like, that seems like a really low number. Is that normal? This is a very unique research project that hasn't been expanded to the entire populace, and they're getting concerned, like this can't be good. But then we move into that summertime, we move out deeper where these fish obviously are hanging out, and man, the fishing has been great. So hopefully that 2% number is normal.
I wonder if it's a bigger percentage of males in the deeper water.
Predominantly, yes.
Because I would think, if they're up inshore to spawn, you always get the littler fish way up inshore.
Yeah.
And it was my assumption that they were all female.
Yes, yeah. So, not my assumption, because I haven't been doing it, I'm not as experienced as Brian, but my understanding from the scientists was that the female gags are the ones that do the migrating. They go from the deep water, they go inshore into the bays and estuaries, and they get nice and fattened up and healthy to reproduce, and then they go back into deeper water. So like in the wintertime when all those fish come in shallow, those are the bigger female gag groupers, and you don't get those rusty belly gags, the true male gag, until you're in much deeper water. And those big males, talking to spear fishermen and talking to the scientists, they are more, they have high sight fidelity is what they call it. They will hang in a spot for like 6-8 months at a time. I was talking to one of the spear fishermen in the St. Pete Open, and he said they will pre-fish for a spear fishing tournament. I was like, how do you pre-fish for a spear fishing tournament?
Look.
Yeah, they go look and they find one of those big rusty bellies. They mark that rock, and then literally during the tournament they'll go back there.
No one's going to be there unless he's been caught.
Isn't that crazy?
I believe it.
That blew my mind. What were you going to say, Garrett, when we started talking?
I was going to say one thing about the gags. I mean, they started a lot of their regulation in, I think, 2010 because they felt that there was a bit much pressure on them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the population is also compensating for that pressure. I'm noticing smaller rusty bellies, like where 15 to 20 pound fish, you normally wouldn't see a rusty belly, where now I feel like you do. So I feel like the gag population is compensating for that pressure, and they are turning to males sooner than maybe they once did before to help bring that population back up to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I'd heard the argument where now you have the smaller male fish that you're just going to start breeding a smaller population of gag groupers.
Overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a lot of people start talking about when we have a conversation like this is they start saying, oh, you should have a slot limit. But it's like offshore, a slot limit's kind of counterproductive, especially when you don't see that really big overslot fish until you're in deeper water. And they take a long time to get to the surface. They don't give up easily, so they have a very high barotrauma rate, and makes it tough to release a fish alive.
They got 6 months anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a strong fishery. I think the
too.
regulations have done a good job to make it sustainable. Every year, the last 2 or 3 years, I think it's stronger, a little bit stronger every year.
Yeah, and even inshore, I mean, I personally don't ever remember so many people catching keeper gags around the Skyway, around those bridges.
Lots of them caught on the Skyway.
Yeah.
Really lots.
And I was getting a little worried. People were getting really efficient at that Tampa Bay Egmont Key Channel trolling. And what really is funny on that subject is that a lot of times when you have people talking about gag grouper and just fisheries conservation as a whole, they a lot of times will say about how snook, redfish, trout, that we need to make sure that we are preserving those fish, and you should catch and release snook, redfish, trout. But then they're the ones that are being like, oh yeah, you can catch and release snook, redfish, trout. There's plenty of mangrove snapper and gags to eat in the bay. And it's like, well, those fish are the estuary fish for the offshore fisheries. So it's one of those tug of wars I think is going to happen over time.
Always.
You have to kind of find a balance of, yeah, you should eat some snook, redfish, and trout occasionally. Don't kill all the mangrove snapper in the estuary. So we got to make one of those shirts that say "Eat more snook" with a little mangrove snapper holding the sign.
That's a good idea.
Let's see, what other photos do we have here? It's been a while since I played with all these buttons, Josh. Ah, there we go. Look at John.
Oh, yeah,
I feel like he set the shot up.
Leo, I think he did. Leo caught the big red, 31.5-inch red, late in the trip.
Nice.
That's a fat red grouper.
What was the kid's name who caught the big gag? Coached him into catching a gag. He had his grouper limit, his snapper limit. I said, you got to catch a gag. He goes, I've been trying, man. I've been trying. So I told him, I said, next stop, I said, and I don't know, maybe bullshit, I'm lying to him. I said, when you drop your lead down, I said, get your lead down on the bottom so where you know where it's at. I said, flip your bail and don't let that lead move. I said, the boat's going to swing and you don't want to be dragging that lead. Let it sit still. When the boat swings back, flip your bail maybe, take up your slack, you know where the lead is, leave that bail open until that fish pulls that line out of your hand. 2 hours later, I got the Jackpot gag count.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And those big gags, that's what it takes. A lot of times they are extremely smart.
Don't let your lead slide across the bottom when the boat's swinging.
You got to keep it still.
You do.
Yeah.
If it moves, the red snapper's going to grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and even fishing the hardest rock bottom, what I talk about a lot in the seminar, is the hardest rock bottom still has that silt layer from the fish that are living on top of it. And that silt layer, all it takes is that lead to just roll over, and it's going to create a little puff of sand.
Sure, you make a little cloud.
And that's enough to scare that smart gag grouper away. Unless he's aggressive. Like a lot of times you get those aggressive fish in the beginning of a spot, or if you, at the end of a spot, drop down a bait that's a little different, you'll get that aggressive gag to bite. But generally that bigger, older, jackpot winning fish has been around the block once or twice, and he's not going to be big, dumb,
He's
aggressive.
had a couple hooks corrode out of his cheek already.
Yeah. They're going to be a little bit more leader shy and timid and smart.
And now it's getting hot. Water's getting warm. Light tackle is going to be king. Guys will be trying to land them mangoes on 20-pound tests.
Trying.
That's tough.
Yeah,
Trying.
that's what I said. Trying. 30 guys. Come on, don't go any lighter than 30.
Don't go any lighter than 60.
I recommend 60.
60 for the main line for sure. 40-pound leader. That's my favorite.
40-pound. That's tough in gag grouper season. That's a gamble.
You can't use 40 for gags.
Yeah.
For mangoes. That's all. Now, 60 minimum. And the guys who get the big ones, like that one right there on the screen, he's probably using 100.
Oh, yeah. That was, I was actually a little lighter than that. We had that was one of the videos that we had in the supporters group this week. And I believe he said he was using 60-pound leader. Do you remember? Or wait, you were running the truck.
No, Garrett.
No, Garrett was?
I didn't ask. Just from my recollection, I feel like he was beefed up a little bit. Maybe something 80. Nick
is a supporter. He watched the video, so he said he was using 60-pound main line, 60-pound top shot, and an 80-pound leader. So that sounds right. And I don't know. That's a good starting.
Horse. That's a horse too.
But that's not the tackle I would choose if I was targeting.
You got lucky, Joe. You know it.
Lucky's good.
Yeah, I mean, if I was targeting,
yeah, it is.
If I was targeting a 47-pound gag grouper, I wouldn't be using 80-pound leader.
80.
Yeah,
minimum.
Yeah. I'd be using 100, or even 100,
we were
125.
swinging away from the spot, and a lot of times those big fish are
off
the spot.
Yeah.
They're not sitting right on the rock. They're hanging out off to the side, and we happen to be swinging away from the spot, which 9 out of 10 times is very aggravating. And I'm ready to pick up and move. And I was actually getting ready to move, and I went to the side. He was fishing on the port side, and I looked around the side. I saw somebody had a fish on, and you got a fish on, Joe? He's like, yeah. I was like, you need a gaff? He's like, I think so. And I was like, all right. I just kind of moseyed on up there, and the thing just boom up out of the water. I was like, holy smokes.
That's crazy.
And, he said that it was peeling on him quite a bit, which, fortunately he had his drag set appropriately. A lot of times you hear lock the drag. But when you're using 60, 80 on a close to 50-pound fish, if that drag's locked, you would have lost it before you even knew you had it hooked. Mm-hmm. And they're just too powerful. And
good job.
You run the risk of them running you into the rocks and breaking you off, but you also, you also run the risk of him running you into the rocks, not breaking you off, and having the ability to maybe get him out and get him up.
Yeah.
First, locking your drag and popping them off.
Yeah.
So
definitely want to have your drag set right. And a lot of people ask, well, how do you set your drag? And that varies depending on your tackle, what you're targeting, all that stuff. So it definitely makes it tricky. So it was interesting hearing the story of this fish from Joe Carney, the guy who caught the fish, and then later hearing the story from Garrett, seeing kind of both sides of it. Because all of you guys in the supporters group, you saw the video where Joe talked about it. I think I talked about it in the post that we made about this fish, but it was caught using octopus for bait, because we've had a little bit of difficulty catching a lot of live bait because of that spotty red tide that kind of comes and goes from the area. And I suggested, hey, there's a lot of octopus out there right now. We have frozen octopus in the shop. Might want to grab some of it. The bonita's working well. Well, Joe grabbed some octopus, and he caught this 47-pound gag grouper on that octopus. And then what happened when he dropped it back down?
he caught a 25-pounder
on the same bait.
Back to back.
Bait.
And that ABC octopus.
Yeah, yeah. That is crazy, man. So literally same piece of bait, right after landing a 47-pound trophy, catches a 25-pound gag right behind it. And it's kind of a sad day when your 25-pound gag seems small.
It's a good day.
It's a sad but good day when a 25-pound gag isn't all that impressive behind that big monster.
What size hook was he using? You still on there? I know you had a big bait. You had to have a big hook hanging
I don't
out
think
of
he
it.
said the size of the hook in the video that we made.
The bigger the bait, the bigger hook you gotta have.
Yeah.
See guys trying to use a big bait, they're not using.
I
a big
feel like
enough
he
hook.
had 2 hooks.
Yeah, might have
think
double
he
snelled
had a
it.
snell, and there was definitely something in the probably 9 to 11-aught range.
Yeah, right
Circle.
size hook.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Joe. He set a 7-aught hook. So yeah, if you're using 2 of them, at least he's making sure they're spread out. But yeah, definitely the size of your hook is dictated by the size bait you're using.
If you're using a big bait, you want to have a lot of hook hanging out of the bait to grab the fish. Mm-hmm. So the bigger bait you're going to use, the bigger hook you got to have.
But like a piece of octopus, you might be able to, like that head is very soft and squishy, so a 7-aught would still be hanging out of that octopus.
Circle and a
decent.
7-aught J.
Ah, very cool.
Or
A little
is
bit
it-
of everything.
Yeah.
It worked.
As
Hey,
far
hey,
as far
hey.
as the drag's concerned, what I always tell people, when your lead is reeled up to your rod, and you have your top shot on there, to take a wrap around your hand on the line right by the base of the reel and pull on it, and if it doesn't leave an indentation in your skin, it's not tight enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to. Really
Cut
lay into your not cut you. You want it
Almost
to be
You,
able
you
to.
need to be able to pull it out. But,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it has to be difficult.
And it's got to leave a nice mark on your
nice
hand.
little ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most people would want to wrap that 2 or 3 times. Don't try to wrap 60-pound one time.
Garrett's got a
unless you're
challenge
Garrett.
stuff.
Yeah.
60-pound
Salty.
wrapped once is not a good idea.
Never wrap braid.
Never.
Never wrap braid around your hand. It will cut you.
Unless you don't want a hand.
You can use braid to cut a piece of anchor line if you don't have a knife. You'll saw right through it like a hacksaw blade.
I feel like he's done that before.
I can do it with a shoestring.
I feel like that was a threat the way he looked at me. Let's get back to these photos.
Also somebody's neck.
That's what he was inferring the way he looked at me. Actually, before we get back to the photos, let's go ahead and do our first giveaway of the night, Josh. Let's see what we got for our... Joe's giving us the rundown. So Joe said that big gag was caught on a Hubbard's Marina Special, the custom Bull Bay rod, the light green wrap 30 to 80, the Daiwa LD50 Saltiga, I want to say. Maybe it was a Saltis.
Yes, it was a Saltiga.
It was a Saltiga with 50-pound braid, 60-pound top shot, and an 80-pound leader with that double snell rig. That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, hey, it worked.
That's it.
You the man,
That'd be
Joe.
tough to beat.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Nice fit.
I'm out for a 50+ now. After seeing that thing.
I mean, I think that was, in my recollection.
Hey, I was going to ask you how deep you were, but she's probably all the way to the bottom, huh?
Where'd you catch that one? In the corner of the mouth.
In the corner of the mouth.
I always ask Brian, how deep were you fishing? What do you say?
All the way to the bottom.
No, he
It's
used to.
over my head.
Yeah.
It's over my head.
How deep
There
you're
it is,
fishing?
right
Over
there.
your head. Yeah, exactly. Will said, "What's the Captain Brian joke of the week?"
So this blind guy walks into a bar, right? Blind. He sits down, he's having a beer, he's bullshitting with the guy next to him. He goes, "Hey man, you want to hear a good blonde joke?" He goes, "Blonde girl joke?" He goes, "Yeah, you want to hear a good blonde girl joke?" Guy says, "Yeah man, I want to hear that." Well, right then, the bartender walks up to him, sees a big blonde girl. She says, "Hey man, I know you're blind, but I'm a big blonde girl, and I might not appreciate a blonde girl joke. And there's 2 or 3 other big blonde girls in the bar right now, too. You sure you still want to tell that joke?" Blonde guy says, "Not if I got to explain it 4 times."
Oh dear. Moving on.
I love blondes.
Me too. My wife is blonde. Hopefully she's not watching. All right, Josh, let's see who won our 10-hour all day for 10-hour all. Wait a minute. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's see who won the 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Winner is Jeff Risher from Palm Beach County, Florida. Nice. All right, Josh, let's go ahead and go back to the photos. We'll rip through the rest of those photos real quick. People's comments are catching up with your joke.
Yeah. What's that?
People's comments are now catching up with the joke.
Glad
you
I
just
can't
told.
see it.
A lot of red snapper. We've been seeing some big mangroves. Hogfish bite actually got a little bit better this week, which was surprising. Got 1 hogfish on a 39-hour trip. Which one of you guys was running that one? You were? And Will was saying there's probably more down there, but you guys...
That was almost 190 feet of water, too.
That is a deep water hogfish, man. And he was saying there was probably more down there, but you guys had to move. The sharks were being an issue.
It was like the last fish on the spot, you know.
Right as the bite slowed down, the hogfish moved in, huh?
And that's pretty typical.
That's how it works, man. Even in 190 foot of water. And look at that. Jason Porton, one of the first mate or second mate extraordinaires, is now running as second captain on quite a few of these 39-hour trips. He must have woke up from his beauty sleep, huh, Garrett?
Either that or he's holding up somebody else's fish.
He got 3 baits from Chino and caught 2 gags and a scam.
Nice.
Chino's like, "I ain't never giving you a bait again."
Well, he caught a nice scamp, that's for sure.
I got half of that scamp.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
It's good to be the first captain, right, Brian? Nice big old mangrove snappers.
Yeah, it's been a good mango. Even
Look at
offshore,
that one.
when we're chasing the red snappers, I'm getting stops. I'm getting 10 or 12 nice mangoes out to about 190 feet.
Wow, that's a bit. And we've seen, what's the biggest mangrove snapper we've got so far that you guys recall?
John Martin had a big one, but we didn't have a mango jackpot, so we didn't weigh it. But it might have been 8.5 pounds, maybe 9, maybe.
Well,
I haven't weighed many lately.
So that's a good question. So right now, because red snapper is open, you guys are doing a red snapper and then biggest grouper jackpot.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, biggest snapper, biggest grouper.
Yeah, just keeping it to 2.
Typically, it ends up being a red snapper and a gag, but it could be a cubera
Or big red grouper.
or a big
the
red
gags
grouper.
Are slow,
Yeah,
you know.
right. Yeah, so it's largest grouper, largest snapper.
Keeping it.
And it makes for a big jackpot. You guys are liking the payout.
There you go. Josh, I hit the wrong button. Can you bring us back to full screen?
That's a nice red grouper right there.
So one thing that that you guys just brought up was Cubera snapper. So we had a guy go out on a trip, I believe it was Tuesday's trip, I forget. Everything's running together. I don't know what day it is.
We're 3
I
weeks
think
into
I know
an
where you're
8-week
going
season.
with this.
Yeah, the guy brought out the lobster,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, man, I've done that before, but I sent the lobster down for like 5 minutes. I set a timer, literally, and after about 5 minutes, I reeled that sucker up and threw it on the grill.
Yeah.
And it was good eating, but I did use it for bait for a minute. But Cubera snapper, we start to kind of have a chance for them in the summertime, but I feel like in my memory, we've always caught Cuberas, or not we always catch them, but when we catch Cuberas, it typically always happens like either late August or into like mid-September. And even according to the photos, when I just searched in my computer for Cubera, almost all of the photos were from early to mid-August until around early September. But what is your guys' impression of that? We still can catch them in June. I remember catching, I think, one. And didn't Sam catch one on that trip with you and Red Snapper?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say I really have
A set time.
them completely figured out. But I will say that it's definitely late summer.
Yeah.
Late
later
summer, it seems to be when, if you're going to get one, that's when, we happen upon them.
Yeah.
And as for bait, this gentleman on his last 39 brought out live lobsters, and that's always kind of been, a go-to, I guess, in certain parts of the state. But I don't know that I've seen one caught on a lobster. In my experience, they're almost always hooked on a fish that's already been hooked. Like we're fishing for mangroves,
right?
Or somebody hooks a vermilion, and it happens to be a smaller one, and then they get swallowed on the way up.
And we'll land a vermilion or a mango that have those two
Yep.
spike marks on their fillet, and you can tell how wide they are, how big the damn fish was.
Yeah.
That's every time you see that wounded fish, drop him right back down.
I wish I could say I could target them. I feel like maybe we can get in the area where they're at, but as far as like dropping a bait, I'm going to try to catch a Cubera on this bait. I have never seen that happen. It's always been on a fish that's been hooked and on the way up, just like the Goliaths do when you're reeling in
Or a shark.
And the
or a
shark's
shark.
the same way,
It's
yeah.
always they're kind of cruising around. They see it, or a dolphin.
Yeah.
The dolphins grab our fish too.
They see a fish in distress.
And then they go after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the last two big Cuberas that were hooked and landed were both thought to be sharks by pretty much everybody on the boat and dismissed.
Yeah.
That one big one you guys got was 109 pounds, I believe.
111.
111. Man, that is a
big
monster
bird of
fish.
shit.
The smaller ones I've seen caught on a threadfin or a pinfish, the 20 to 40 pounders.
When you're mango
Yeah.
fishing.
But the big ones, it's always, in my experience, it's always been a fish that's been hooked and on the way up and gets swallowed.
And that's what I was telling the gentleman with the lobster. He was like, well, I want to catch a Cubera. What size hook? What liters? When should I use that? And I was like, listen, man, there's no real rhyme or reason to that.
Yeah.
We don't really have a Cubera fishery.
Yeah. But when you do catch them, it's exactly word for word what Captain Garrett just
If
said.
you had time to try, I'd have Garrett take me because he always sneaks in a big one.
The one Cubera I caught was not in the Gulf of Mexico. It was down in Costa Rica with the Real Animals radio or fishing show when we were down there filming one of his TV shows. It was right at the mouth of Crocodile Bay, and we were fishing for blue runners before we headed offshore to get sailfish. And at the mouth of Crocodile Bay, it drops from like 80 foot of water down the side of this mountain to like 300, 400 foot of water.
Nice.
And basically we fished the top of that plateau for blue runners with sabikis and caught a blue runner. And he was like, oh, do you want to try for one of the big groupers here? And I was like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I don't want to catch a sailfish. Let's try this.
Yeah.
And so I free lined out a blue runner, and this sucker just goes straight to the surface. And it's like tail walking across the surface. And just red and dark maroon right behind it. And a Cubera came out of the water and eats this thing right at the surface.
Oh, wow.
Like a redfish on the flats.
Nice.
It was nuts. And then my mom had a bait out right next to me, and she had like a 25-pound red snapper come up and do the same thing. It was very, very unforgettable, to say the least. But, yeah, that was the only bear I've ever caught. And it wasn't very large. It wasn't 109 pounds. It was, I think, like 40-some pounds. But down there, they use super light tackle, so I wouldn't have had any shot at anything bigger. But
I just saw a question about how's the Extreme Trip doing, and they have been crushing it.
Destroying it.
Crushing
Gag grouper after gag grouper.
Joe's been complaining he can't get out of the groupers.
If you're not booked, then get on the wait list.
Yeah.
Because they are killing it.
And that is a very good point, Garrett, because, yes, coming into red snapper season, all the 12-hour extreme trips, almost all the 39 hours were booked. There's 2 44 hours completely booked, and we have been inundated with last-minute cancellations. The 44-hour this coming Friday had 12 open spots on it starting Saturday. We had literally a group of 10 call and cancel and only kept 2 people. And then another group of 3 canceled. So we've been just inundated with last-minute cancellations. And thankfully, the office has been doing a really good job trying to keep up with calling trips at a week ahead of time prior to the cancellation policy setting in. So we've been able to cancel people off and get an opportunity to fill those spots. So always recommend looking at those trips and watching out for them. And yes, Nick, Dan, I saw your comments about trips getting canceled. The 12-hour extreme trip is a great trip. They're killing the fish, but it is very weather sensitive. 39-hour will laugh at 4-foot seas. 12-hour extreme trip, trying to go out there 70 miles in 2.5 hours, you're not going to do that in 3.5-foot seas.
And as frustrating as those cancellations are, it wouldn't be the trip that you're expecting if we attempted to go out. And it doesn't seem like much, but the boat is designed to operate in a little bit lighter weather. And not that it won't operate in the heavier seas, but you won't get to where you want to get, and you won't catch the fish that you're expecting to catch.
And I don't know of a center console anywhere that operates at 40 miles an hour in 3.5-4-foot seas, unless you're tournament fishing and you just don't care.
You're pissing blood at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you've got a bad back. Yeah, it's just we have to get a little bit more realistic, and that's not anybody's fault. That's a product of our business. Our business, we have the Hub, we have the we have the Florida, we have the Friendly, and those boats are very, very not weather sensitive. They can go out there in the Florida. I mean, essentially, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing, within reason. They both looked at me. Did you see that? They both were like, within reason, the Florida just pretty much can always go. Whereas the Flying Hub 2, it's definitely one of those things where we got to watch
in the summertime, it's got to be a storm, a system.
Any go-fast boat is weather sensitive.
Yeah. And I've been talking to a lot of those go fast charter captains. Like I was conversating with Steve Pappin today from Fantastic Fishing Charters at 5 a.m. I was like, hey, man, we canceled our extreme trip today. Weather's looking a little bit nicer. I'm really kind of kicking myself. He was like, dude, no one's going out there today. I think 2 guys went out there and they turned around. It would be stupid to go out there in that kind of sea. So it made me feel a lot better. And that's a lot of times what I do is just for justification. I like
we don't like to cancel any more than you do.
Yeah, and what Garrett said is it's not the product that you want is important. To me, it's a lose-lose. If we don't cancel and we take you out there, you don't get as far, you don't catch as many fish as you wanted, we don't feel good about the product we sold, and everybody loses. Whereas if we don't take you out there, you might be a little bit upset that we didn't take you, but in the long run, you might have an opportunity to come back and try it again, and you won't be as upset because you didn't waste the money. And that, in my opinion, there's too many nice days in Florida.
And this is the time of year where, we have way more nice days than rough days.
Yeah.
It's rare in the summertime. It takes a depression like we just had to cancel trips on the Flying Hub 2 in the summertime. Otherwise, that boat's going.
It's good through August into September, almost till
Captain
Thanksgiving.
Joe has just been absolutely killing it, and the quality and the quantity, it's been kicking ass.
And it's a nice ride and nice weather. You guys are going to have a blast.
Yeah, it's a great ride. Basically, if you don't have time for a 39-hour, the 12-hour extreme trip's the way to go.
Show
for
you
sure.
the same meat fish.
Yeah, and it's definitely been going very well on the 12-hour extreme trip. But also, one of the things we wanted to mention and remind everybody about is the radio show. It's been talked about in the comments a little bit. So Saturday mornings, shout out to the Real Animals. Their logo happens to be behind Garrett right now. They have brought us on. Mike Anderson has brought us on as the full-time co-host of the Saturday morning 970 WFLA radio show. So excited about that every Saturday from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on 970 WFLA. You can catch us on the radio and also on the Real Animals Facebook page. They live stream that show. And Josh doesn't know it yet. Wait, he does know it. I think I talked to him about it. But we are going to develop one of these style live streams with Captain Mike as well. So we'll be able to not only live stream to the Real Animals page, but we'll also be able to do it to Hubbard's Marina eventually as well. But make sure to go over that Real Animals Facebook page, their YouTube page. Make sure you give them a like and a follow and a subscription to thank him for bringing us on. So we're excited about that for sure. And we'll do some supporter after shows with Captain Mike after those radio shows in the parking lot there before we hit breakfast. So stay tuned for that on the supporters page. And I think that was all our announcements, Josh. Am I forgetting anything, boys? Before we get into these questions? I feel like you want to keep scooting away from me. Yeah, we have a lot of pictures. We're never going to get through them. We keep getting sidetracked. So I want to get into some questions. But on to the questions, unless you guys can think of something you want to mention. Put you on the spot while I'm looking for my next question.
No, it's June, man. What a great month to fish. That's the thing, man. I love fishing in June. Shit.
And why? Just because the water's not too hot yet?
The water's not too hot. You're allowed to keep what you catch.
Yeah. Except for triggerfish and amberjack.
Right, and we are throwing back a lot of big triggerfish, too.
Yeah.
It's like, son of a gun.
Yeah. Tough, for sure.
And jacks, I think they're a little overfished.
Mm-hmm.
And not throwing back a bunch of them, which is a good thing.
And we're going to definitely be having, thank you for locking the gate, Josh. We're going to definitely be having some amberjack cuts, definitely, it seems like, in the future. We have a 4-month amberjack fishery right now, and it seems like definitely going to be kind of going down a little bit in the very near future. What is the best way to rig the octopus? To me, you could either cut off a couple tentacles and string them up for red grouper, red snapper bait, but if you're dropping down for a big gag, probably one big hook through the head and maybe a second hook middle of the body. If you wanted to do the double Snell method or just one big hook in the head.
I think I threw the hook back on Joe's rig, I think. Maybe I dreamt it. I don't know. But I put one in the head, and then, these octopus that you buy, they're not, like sometimes we catch octopus, and they're
monsters
this long. That's not the kind of octopus we're talking about. And we're not talking about the tentacle of the octopus. We're talking about a whole octopus that maybe balled up is the size of a softball, and stretched out it's maybe this long. And
14 inches or so.
2 hooks in the head.
One in the head, and then Joe had a Snell rig, which worked great, and the other one just wherever it ends up, because when you're fishing with the amount of lines that are going down, you want it to, the top hook in the head, so when it's coming down, everything else is just trailing down nice and straight. You don't want to hook it, it's in the middle of the thing, because it'll just kind of...
The top hook or the first hook, the hook closest to the lead, wants to be at the front of the
the head, the top of the head,
or the front of the head.
It's like squid, it's tough. It's not, it's not going to pull through it or anything. So you don't have to worry about just getting it right in the tip. It's going to stay in there.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's hydrodynamic so it doesn't spin. Do you think red snapper season will be extended? And this is the hot topic as of late. A lot of people asking me about that. Which is understandable because we've lost a lot of days of red snapper, and fisheries management is a whole nother show. We don't have enough time left in the show tonight to go into the intricacies of why we will not see an extended red snapper season. Now, private recreational red snapper season that's managed by the FWC, I would bet you $5,000 right now that they will see added days. They're going to get an email from Governor DeSantis in probably mid to late October following that last FWC meeting about how private recreational American red snapper season has been extended. And that's because they're managed by the state. The private recreational fishery for red snapper alone are managed by FWC, and they did that through Amendment 50 for that reason, the flexibility of state management, and is just a lot better suited for the unknowns of the Gulf-wide red snapper fishery, because each Gulf state has a different fishery and a different way they prosecute that fishery, and it gets really complicated beyond that. We are federally managed, and the federal management system is just way more. I mean, the easiest way to say it is bureaucratic red tape, and through the current management structure and scientific survey structures that we have, it lags almost 4 to 5 months behind. So they do this two-month wave thing. So it's January, February is wave 1, March, April, wave 2, May, June is wave 3, and then July and August is wave 4. So wave 4 doesn't end until August. Takes about 4 months for them to formalize that data. So September, October, November, into December before they can with certainty say, all right, there's more quota left on the table.
Right.
And then that has to go in front of the council. The council then, 17 voting members made up of commercial, private rec, for-hire representatives have to then argue or agree to a solution, which almost never happens in one meeting. So under best case scenario, it would take a year and a half for them to decide to lengthen our season within the same year, which is obviously impossible. So our solution is the Seafire program that we've already implemented January 5th. Not everybody agrees with it. Some people really don't like it. It's very difficult to keep up with. It's hard to remember. And I won't ask Captain Brian and Captain Garrett exactly how they feel about that on air, because it is tricky. It is annoying, and definitely understand that. And the vessel monitoring portion is even more frustrating, but that's going to allow us to more fully utilize our fishery in the long run. And the intricacies behind that, why, and the reasons why are, like I said, a whole hour-long show, which we're working towards. Really trying to get our friend Emily from the Gulf Council to join us for one of these shows, and Kim Amendola, who's the assistant regional director for the Southeast Regional Office of NOAA, has been threatening to join us for a show. So we're calling the bluffs, and we'll see if we can get the federal managers and the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council leaders on the show. The chair of the Gulf Council is right here in St. Pete now, and Dr. Tom Frazier, he was on that round table with Governor DeSantis when they talked about red tide. Yeah. So hopefully it'll be soon, because that would be really cool for them to come on the show and cover some of that stuff that I just referenced. But what is the next question so we don't go too far down that rabbit hole, Josh?
So in short, don't count on it.
In short, don't count on it for probably the next 4 to 6 years before we're able to stand that program up and get it calibrated, reach full compliance, and go through all the bureaucratic red tape that it will require. But we will eventually have something that's real time, like the commercial fishery has already, where there's no end date announced. It's you fish all the way until your quota's full.
Right.
And we don't overrun our quota because it's monitored in real time through that daily reporting. Is there a fee to fish off your dock?
Yeah, you have to be polite and clean up your mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to clean up your mess. You got to be respectful of the wildlife and the regulations, and you got to make sure that you're willing to work with us if we're loading or unloading a boat. You got to kind of clear out of the area. And don't make Captain Garrett upset.
Yeah, that's the fee.
That's the big problem. Yeah. A lot of people have asked about the red tide situation. In my opinion, it's very spotty. Basically, from our area to the south, it's almost clear. We have boats running from Fort DeSoto to Shell Key, Fort DeSoto to Egmont Key. We have boats running from Johns Pass up and down the beaches. We have boats running offshore. And we really haven't seen much of those issues.
Sporadic.
Very sporadic.
And I think that the rain we're getting is really helping with that, too.
If anything, clearing up.
If anything, clearing up in our area, up to the beaches to the north. I know from like Indian Shores, Reddington Shores, into Clearwater, it's been really bad. It's definitely a little bit worse in certain areas. So it's just a waiting game to see what's going to happen. But most of the issue is luckily concentrated to our north and then around that south shore of Tampa Bay area. So hopefully we will see this start to kind of get a little better for us. But as of lately, it's just like one day you really feel it and you really have those effects, and then the next day it's gorgeous.
And the next day you don't.
Yeah. And lately it's almost been tied to the currents.
Like there's a little patch of it that drifts past us when the tide's going out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what day it was, but it was beautiful in the morning, and Brian, our bait guy, came down, and we've been talking.
Friday.
It was Friday, yeah. It was gorgeous in the morning, just peaceful, calm. No smell, no irritation, just gorgeous. And I was like, yes, we're finally going to get some live bait. We're finally going to do well. And then all of a sudden the tide kind of slowed down, and that outgoing tide really started kicking. And even then it was still nice, but towards the tail end of that outgoing tide, it sucked a lot of concentration.
By 2 in the afternoon, it was quite a bit stronger.
And it was literally, I saw it roll by where it was beautiful greenish clear water, and then a patch of literally dark red kind of went up on the seawall and kind of swirled around, and then you could hear it like an alarm bell. People started hacking along the boardwalk a little bit. It was upsetting.
So if you want live baits on the overnighter, bring a sabiki.
Bring a sabiki.
Catch your own.
And what kills me is the frustration felt by everybody, which I understand. It's frustrating. You plan a trip for 6 months, you buy pinfish, and then all of a sudden you get down there and we don't have them. But red tide is very spotty. We don't know it's around. You can't know without a shadow of a doubt whether it's there or not. And we could have nice weather in the past. We could kill the pinfish. We could bring a bunch of them, put them on the boat, and you could load up the boat with live bait, and you could make it through the channel, and all of a sudden you run into a patch of it a mile from the beach.
It's not a problem right now. It's annoying more than it's a problem.
Yeah.
How many hundreds of thousands of pounds of fish have you caught without using live bait?
I hate using live bait. Use live bait on a hole, and then the fish want live bait on that hole.
Yeah.
Don't spoil the fish, is what Brian's saying. Dead bait.
That's right. Use a dead bait, damn it.
Yeah.
It's always nice. I understand that, you got a well full of nice frisky baits, but and to not have them, when you're gearing up and you're checking off your list, and then, oh, sorry, we don't have live bait. I can understand how, like you said, that could be very frustrating, but we are doing just as fine
without them.
If not better.
Yeah, it's been
because
almost
I think
unnoticeable.
people are having to, maybe resort to, well, let me try this. Let me try something they wouldn't otherwise try, like the octopus. A cut piece
now
of bonita.
Now we're going to be sold out of octopus for a month.
Yeah.
Bonita's killer bait.
Yeah, cut bonita.
And the closer it gets to being a piece of skin, it seems like the better it works.
So, it basically, red tide reporters, it's very spotty. And we really just don't know from day to day how it's going to be. And the only thing it affects is our ability to catch live bait. Even at the worst red tide in my lifetime that I can recall, it never really had an effect on our offshore fishery. Sometimes if it gets real bad, it might affect the half day and the fact that we have to travel further. But we still catch plenty of fish. And in my opinion, we caught more fish when it got really bad because it kind of pushed everything to a certain line, and as long as we fished ahead of that line, we ended up doing really well. So we just had to travel a little further. We turned our 5 hour into a 6 hour. That the extent of the impact. But obviously, it does a lot to our inshore estuaries, which isn't good. So
Yeah, and the fishing under the bridge is tough when
Yeah.
it's rolling by.
yeah. But our county does a great job of keeping it clear on the beaches, in the pass, and it's almost unnoticeable outside of that little tickle in your throat. Unless you have like asthma, COPD, then it's a little bit more to worry about in that respect if you already have breathing issues. Josh has got the screen pulled up. I think he's trying to tell me it's time to give away a 10-hour all-day for 2 guests. Let's see what a 10-hour all-day for 2 guests. Let's see who the lucky winner of that 10-hour all-day for 2 guests is. That is a $218 value, absolutely free, to Ronald Garrigan from Largo, Florida.
All right.
Right down the street. Could throw a rock at Largo from here. Congrats, Ronald.
Don't hesitate. June is a great month to fish.
Yes. Great month to fish, but you can't use the free trips in red snapper season. Yeah, caveat. Got you, Captain Brian.
Go win those hogfish.
Yeah.
Popping.
Yeah, and if you're a local like you are from Largo, I mean, really, in my opinion, the best time to go is not in March, April, June, or July. Outside of those months when trips are half full, when
As soon as the
fishing, in
kids
my
go
opinion,
back
is
to
a little better.
Not because the fishing's bad in those months, because
Yeah.
they're doing great. It's just, you're not fighting the crowds.
You're not fighting the crowds. It's a little cooler, and it concentrates the fish a little bit through. I was talking to one. I won't be specific out of fear of singling anybody out, but I was talking to a local, and they were saying, "Oh, we don't fish in the wintertime. We know the fishing isn't as good." And I was like, "Well, what about early fall, like around early to mid-October? That's my favorite time to go." And she's like, "Well, we're not a tourist. We know you don't fish well in hurricane season." I was like, "Well, hurricane season's May 15th now until until November, October-ish. And then winter's the rest of the time until February. So when are you allowed to fish? Basically March, April through June and July." And it's like, that's, in my opinion, the worst time to fish as a local, because that's the time of year that we're most full, most busy, most people around. And that's not because fishing's really great. That's just the time of year people go on vacation, spring break and summer.
I've seen a lot of inshore gags. I'm talking inside of 40 feet of water get caught in September, October, November, December.
Months ending in ER.
Yeah.
Always the best for gag
Inshore
grouper history.
gags.
Captain
It's just-
Frank has just really got those hogfish
Yeah,
dialed
Frank
in.
does have the hogs.
He does a
dialed
great
in.
job on the all days when and those hogfish.
It's so funny. I'm laughing because like a while
does.
back, that was the butt of every joke. Is Frank's fishing shallow, and
Yeah.
he was. It was a
You
it was
go
a
out
tough
a little
crowd.
bit further for him.
Yeah.
You can.
But now it's Captain Frank's the hogfish man, so
Yeah.
it's cool to see.
He's killing it on them hogs.
Yeah.
And those hogfish, they kind of they follow the patterns of the gags. Mm-hmm.
Bite better in cooler months.
Yeah.
100%.
They're a wrasse, not a snapper, and they like that colder water.
Yeah. It's not a hog-nosed snapper. It's actually in the wrasse family, and that's why they hang, in my opinion, up higher in the water column. They're still a bottom fish. They feed on the bottom, but they kind of cruise above the bottom looking for crustaceans. So they're looking for that little puff of sand, and that's why those naked ball jigs, those jig heads, those knocker rigs work really well, because you're kind of fishing that angle. And Captain Frank explains that in that techniques video on our new summary page. So make sure you check out that video for those hogfish tips and tricks. Josh, we got time for like one or two more questions before we hop over to the supporters after show. What do you got for us? How's the sand issue? That is a very long, drawn out answer to
Ongoing.
basically say it's gotten a lot worse and the county screwed the taxpayers. They did
What
that.
sand issue?
Garrett's been offshore too long. Basically, what it is they tricked us into doing this $35,000 study to shut us up and not allow anybody to talk about it until the end of July, when this $35,000 6-month study ends. The private landowner paid $10,000 between us paying 8 and a landowner paying 2. The city paid 10 grand. And so basically the people saying, hey, there's a problem here, we need help, there's a problem here, they got penalized. City paid 10, we paid 10, and then the FDOT and the county, who in my opinion are the root cause, paid $7,500 for this study. And after the end of a 6-month study, the scientists said, well, the equipment used was not able to study the area around the bridge where the problem is. And the scope of the study wasn't large enough to explore lengthening the jetty, which is all we wanted to really know. So at the end of this 6-month study and $35,000, they told us with a straight face,
we don't know.
Ready? You should dredge. Really? So the sand that's there, we should pay a bunch of money to remove? Oh, didn't know that. Didn't know that's how that works.
We had it dredged. It lasted for 9 months.
Twice.
Well, we had it dredged, and it lasted we spent almost $200,000, and it lasted for a little bit more than 6 months. And what it was we only dredged our private property. So the big revolution was, hey, you shouldn't go to the beach and dig a hole down by the shore because it's just going to fill in with sand as soon as a wave comes. You got to all of a sudden dig that whole area out and remove the sand. So he's proposing making that whole area like 15, 20 feet deep again. And that's supposed to be a long-term solution that'll last 20 years. So every 20 years, we're supposed to spend about $3 million.
That long.
I don't know. But about every 20 years, we should spend about $3 million to do a large-scale dredge project in Johns Pass.
I've always seen them fix that problem with the jetty.
Or you could spend $10 million and build a jetty that's another 300 yards longer. And now you could put that out to RFP, and some private owner can come in, slap a state permit on that sucker, and charge people to go out on it. And you could over the course of a jetty doesn't disappear in 5 years. That thing's going to last 30. For 20, 30 years. You put a permit on it and charge people $10 to go out there and fish or go watch the sunset. It's 300 yards longer. Imagine how much better the fishing would be in Johns Pass. Imagine how much straighter the channel would be. It's just like the barrel of a gun. You make the barrel longer, it goes straighter further. So that channel would be straighter, it would be deeper, it would be more true, you'd have better fishing and a better local economy. But
who asked that
$35,000 wasn't enough to figure that out. It was only enough to figure out we needed to dredge. Crazy. But that wasn't even the full explanation. We got a lot more, and we're gonna do a big video on it. But I've been basically waiting to try to. I don't want to burn down all the bridges before I at least attempt crossing them one last time, in a nice way. Josh, find me a better question.
That was a sensitive subject.
Yeah. Captain Mike from Big Pine Key, what's up, man? What speed does the Florida do when trolling? About, I don't know. I'll let you guys answer that one.
8.5 to 9 knots.
I like 8.4.
I was gonna say
when I'm trolling.
7 to 9 knots.
I've always done better, a little bit slower. And on ride out, we don't slow down between spots when we're offshore. We slow down, land that fish, but we're not slowing down on the ride home because not everybody can troll.
Yep.
When we're moving, it's a set RPM, and depending on the conditions, it's 8 to 9 knots.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get a little over 9 if you got a nice current, but it's 8 to 9.2. I would say average 8.5 to 9.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. I mean, me personally, Jennifer James, I appreciate that, but our mayor of Madeira Beach is awesome. John Hendricks and City of Madeira Beach Commission is not the problem. City of Madeira Beach is 100% behind us. Mayor is super helpful. The problem is the county, specifically Barry Burton, the county administrator. Shout out to you, bud. He stood at the top of the stairs after that last meeting, and I was so mad I had to walk out of the meeting because I was going to get arrested. And I sat at the bottom of the stairs and told people what happened at the meeting. He stood at the top of the stairs and visibly laughed at me.
Who did?
Barry Burton, county administrator. He makes $285,000 a year. And his whole job is to basically report to the county commission and let them decide. And he basically controls the county commission because he essentially tells them, hey, this is what I think, and then they vote that way. So very, very upsetting, to say the least. We're getting roadblocked.
I bet if everybody watching the show brought a wagon full of limestone down, we could make our own jetty.
Yes,
right. That's right.
Fill the back of your trucks.
Go fund me.
Don't say that.
Yeah, we're going to have a load of limestone in the parking lot by Wednesday, right?
We did not say that. Josh can edit this out.
It's live. It's already out.
Damn it, man.
All right, let's see. After that, the last thing, guys, we again want to remind you, every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., 970 WFLA, the Real Animals Radio Show. Check it out. Don't forget to check out Real Animals on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure to follow those guys and thank them for all they do. And if you want to do a fishing charter with the Real Animals, check out hubbardsmarina.com. Click fishing trips. Scroll down to the inshore fishing charters to find out more about them. And also, thank you to Salt Strong for sending us some T-shirts, and Yamaha for sending us those new motors and the T-shirts that are in the mail too. With that, we've got the live show next weekend, as always, working on those fishing regulations meetings. I think that's all the big announcements we have. Basically, it's red snapper season. We're busy catching a bunch of those things. Get out here and keep checking on those trips for cancellations. This Friday's 44-hour has 8 open spots. Oh, nice. Talk real quick about your schedules and the breakdown of that whole thing.
So I am running every Tuesday to Thursday trip.
And I'm running every Friday to Sunday trip. And every once in a while, we let Captain Joe have one.
So basically, how it was explained to me is Garrett's guaranteed every Tuesday to Thursday, essentially. Nothing's a guarantee in this life, but Brian's almost always Friday to Sunday. Brian is running a lot of the Sunday to Tuesdays. Captain Joe's peppering in there.
And myself as well.
And you as well with your charter. With the Jimmy family. What's up, guys? Hopefully you're watching. And the last red snapper trip of the season, which we might as well announce now, is probably going to be that July 30th trip. It leaves, or no, wait, not July 30th. It's, I got to look at my calendar because I'm going to say it. You guys are going to call me tomorrow. So the season ends August 2nd at 12, or you have to be at the dock by midnight, August 2nd. You cannot come back to the dock August 3rd and keep a red snapper. So our last 39-hour trip of red snapper season will leave 10 a.m. Sunday, August 1st. Currently, it's booked for 3 p.m. August 1st. So what we're going to have to do is adjust our schedule to departing at 10 a.m. Sunday, and we would be returning midnight Monday. Same thing we did last year when it ended on an odd day. So
and that worked out great.
It did, and we ended up having a great trip. Some sucker has to go to the office and open it up at midnight on Monday. But who knows? I mean, my daughters due August 1st, and if I'm in the hospital, I've got an out. So some other sucker. Josh will let him have a key for a night. Yeah, so that last trip will depart 10 a.m. Sunday and return midnight on the 2nd. And we haven't changed it in the schedule yet just because I was kind of holding out hope that a little bit of something would move here or there. But yeah, the hope is long dead. So just need to get on that and pull the trigger. So you can book it now. We're just going to call you in a day or two and tell you, hey, this is what happened. We changed the schedule. But you already know because you watched the show. Who's the captain on the 44-hour Friday? It's Brian. Every Friday. Tuesday, it's Garrett.
I saw somebody asking what trips Frank's running. He runs the Tuesdays and Thursday all days.
Yep. And during red snapper season, we talked him into working Sundays. So
the Sunday half days, yeah.
Yeah, he's running Sundays half days, and then he occasionally will work, I beve No, he always runs Monday half days. I don't know. I forget his schedule off the top of my head, but it's definitely always Tuesday, Thursday, 10-hour. And then Captain Bobby's always 12-hour night snapper Friday and Sunday, 10-hour. And then they kind of switch off.
And he's been killing it, too. You want to do a Friday night trip.
Someone asked earlier how the 12-hour night mangrove did, and I don't know because I wasn't.
I heard they killed it.
Yeah.
They said they did real well.
Yeah, I missed it because I wasn't around and I didn't get a chance to ask about it.
He filled out my fish report. It looked like he had a lot of fish.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think we're just about out of time for the main show. Don't forget, if you are on the supporters group, you can hop over to the supporters after show about 5 minutes or so after the main show ends to join us for that supporters after show. So let's see who won a 39-hour fishing trip for one guest. That's a $399 value for one lucky winner. Let's see here. Drum roll, please. Estelle Wolfman from Brandon. Holy moly. She deserves it. She's been watching the show for a long time. And someone asked about the motors. Motors are just fine. We're having a little bit of a problem with the Dolphin boat. We've worked that problem out. Honda is not as good as Yamaha. That is the bottom line of that story. The Flying Hub 2 had a little bit of a hiccup, but it was mostly due to weather and some unfortunate issues with the fuel. It was not a motor problem. And lucky, easy fix, but that day we ended up canceling because we thought the motors were having issues. Was a good thing because they were having trouble getting up to speed, and they ended up turning around and not going out there. But I talked to other people in the fleet, and one guy made it out there, and he thoroughly regretted it because it was a solid 4 foot that day. And it ended up raining like crazy later in the day. So if the boat would have pushed out there, it would have been an ugly, ugly day and a tough product. So hindsight's always 20/20, and kind of glad that worked out the way it did. No Bass Pro Days yet. We'll announce that soon, so stay tuned, and we'll see you all next week for another episode of the live stream shows every Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. We'll see you all supporters after the show in about 5 minutes on that private supporters page. And don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing,
you're just too busy.
Oh,